Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to be showing you how to wire up a stereo in your Toyota Celica. Mine's 2002 GT if you don't already know. So you have your standard stereo, it's just got all the basic features, music, Bluetooth, backup camera, USB, aux, SD card. Then on the back, if you flip over here, you're going to notice it has a bunch of outputs. It has all your standard inputs and outputs just for positive and negative. Antenna, this one has radio in, which yours will too. It has the backup camera and then just some different wiring for subwoofer and different amps you can have. The other thing you're going to want to install a stereo, sure you could tie the wires directly into the wires that come out of the dash, but it's just easier if you buy an adapter because these will plug into the dash and then you just take these wires and wire them into the stereo, and I'll show you that now. So yours will either have it in the book or on the stereo itself, but mine has a sticker. It shows you what all the different inputs and outputs are. You can see this is A 1 through 8, B 1 through 8. You just come down here and it'll tell you which wire, like what it does specifically. As you can see, like it'll show the antenna like I already showed you, backup camera in, amplifiers, subwoofer, things like that. And then the brake, illumination, ignition, ground, battery, and then all the different speakers, positive and negative. Just to see which wire goes where. With these two ports, you'll notice that this slot is right in the middle, where this one is offset, so that makes it so these can only plug in one way. So for example, this notch is the offset one, so it's going to go in the bottom, and then this one right here, it's in the middle, so it's going to go right in the top. And then moving on to the hardest part of a stereo install, it's usually the wiring. It's really not too bad, it's mostly just color coded. If you're like me, I'm super colorblind, I really can't see the colors, so we'll go over that now of how to wire each color together and then what they do. So you notice with my wires, the way I connected them is I just bought these little things. You slide the wires together, strip them, and then just pinch it down. You could solder it, you could electrical tape it. Probably not the best method, but really anyway, as long as you're making a strong, clear connection and they're pretty tight, then you should be just fine. So in a Toyota Celica, there's 4 speakers. If you count the tweeters, there's 6 total, but there's no designated wires for the speaker. If you don't already know, each speaker is going to have a positive lead and a negative lead. Mine, it has these flags, so as you can see here, it says rear right speaker, and it has the plus sign, that's positive. And so basically you just wire those together, and if you come to the next one, rear left speaker, positive, and you wire those colors together. And moving on to this one, we have rear left speaker, negative. You're going to wire those two together. And basically it's just the same thing. Here we have rear right speaker, negative. It's these two colors together. If yours ever doesn't have the flags on it, it'll also say along the wire. For example, this is chassis ground. Where as well as it has this ground flag and it says it's somewhere on this wire. You just can't see it on the camera, but if yours doesn't have those flags, don't fret, because it'll oftentimes say on the wire, and if worse comes to worse, you can always just compare the colors. Moving on to the next portion of wires, so we're going to have this battery. This is it just says battery 12 volt DC, and you're going to see it's yellow to yellow. It also says it on the wire, and this is going to be the constant power, so this is going to be what holds your memory. If this gets unplugged, it's going to reset your Bluetooth settings and all your audio settings and configurations. So that's what that wire does. Then moving on to this next one, this one is your Illumination Wire. Sorry, I'm not saying the colors, I really can't see them. I believe this one's like orange, the other side is yellow-white. But basically, on some dashes, or mostly all of them, if you twist the dial, you notice like your whole head unit will turn colors. So if your stereo has that option, if you adjust this, it ranges from 0 to 12 volts. The more you turn it up, the brighter the stereo buttons will become. Next, this says remote power antenna. This color. This is what you're going to do to connect. If you have an antenna that goes up, or even if this isn't connected and you're trying to turn on your stereo, you're just going to hear static because most antennas have to have power to receive radio signals. Next we have this red ACC 12 volt. This is what signals the stereo to turn on. So when you have the key in the ACC position, this fires the signal to the radio saying, hey, turn on. That's basically what this one does. Next, this is the most common. This is the ground. We have all these positive wires, so obviously you're going to have to ground it to the frame. And so ground is usually black, and it's ground, and that's the symbol for ground. Then moving to the front speakers, here we have front left speaker negative. And this one right here is front right speaker negative, so those are the black and whites. Here we have front right speaker positive, that's those two colors. And lastly we have front left speaker positive. So that sums it up for all the general wires. And then lastly, I'll show you the backup cam is going to go here. This is your radio antenna input, so if you don't have that plugged in, you'll also hear static. And these are the ones you use for a subwoofer, at least with my setup. And one last thing I need to mention, sometimes the wire will be on here. In this case with this adapter, it's all the way on this end. It's this, I believe it's blue or purple wire, and this is what you're going to connect to send the stereo signals to the subwoofer, and I'll show you how to connect that as well. For this last part of the video, I'm just going to be showing you where everything plugs in. You're going to have these two cables, which is where our wiring harness goes. My car's already wired for a sub, so you're going to have this blue-ish cable, and that sends signal to the amp. You're going to have your antenna cable. This is where you get your radio signals from. And then you're also going to have your subwoofer cables right here, red and black. Okay, then to show you where everything is going to plug in. So first we'll take our stereo right here. I'm assuming you've already plugged these two in, but just for demonstration, this one goes right here. And they'll only go in one way, so can't really mess that up. Then you're going to come to these leads that we wired up. And you're going to take the bigger one, goes to this bigger blue piece. Just clips right in there. Take this littler one, this goes into the little clip, push that right in there. Gonna take your black antenna cable on the back here of your stereo. Mine just says antenna, it'll say it in the wiring diagram. It's gonna be metal, that's gonna go into there. And then in this video, I'll also show you how to do the sub. So we're gonna have this little blue cable. Like I was talking about earlier, this one's kind of a pain, but we're actually gonna solder these two blue wires together on the wiring harness. And then lastly, we just need to plug these in. So as you'll notice here, I took this blue stereo wire, plugged it into these other two wires, and then I'm just gonna crimp this down. Then you'll notice that I connected those two blue wires, so we're just going to tuck that away. Now I just have to do the subwoofer cables. It depends on your subwoofer setup, but for mine, I'm just running a single 12-inch sub. So you have your red and your black RCA cables, and those are just going to go into here. And black goes to white, red goes to red. And then we'll put it together and test it. Great, now that we've tucked all that in, as you can see, I have it in ACC mode. The stereo turns on. You're going to want to check all your speakers. So you're going to check that door, the tweeter. If the tweeter's not working, it wouldn't be an issue with the wiring. It would be an issue with the wiring in the door because the tweeter ties to the mids in the door. Same with that side, tweeter, then the mid. Then in the rear, you have one speaker here, then just one on the other side as well. One last thing, when you turn off your car, obviously you want to make sure the stereo turns off. So for example, one thing I've noticed with this car, so I did it that time, and I know it's not really a wiring issue, but sometimes, I don't know if it has a capacitor or it's something just with the way I wired it, but the stereo will stay on for a good minute even after the car's off, and it eventually shuts off, but I don't know why it does that, but it won't kill your battery. I always thought it was an issue, and one day I just said screw it and left it to see how long it would stay on, and after about 60 seconds, sometimes it takes up to 2 minutes, it eventually just shut off and went dark. And then you also, like I said, if you have a sound system, you want to make sure your sub is wired correctly and that your amp isn't staying on. But overall, fairly simple. I'm going to do another video on how to remove the whole dash kit. I know I need to order the adapter. It looks really ghetto like that, but it's just a work in progress. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed and hope this helped you a bunch.